he's just going to hard carry the game, which is probably true with the way Huni's been playing, but it really hamstrings Flash Wolves' flexibility in Champ Select.
And the worry has to be game one. That was the easy game that SKT give you. I talked about it. Peanut and Huni, the least amount of involvement they had in a while. Power with Maple and Casa. I mean, sure, Bang kind of got some kills and they took over the game, but it only gets tougher when you play against a team like SKT.
I mean, it was a new SKT. They reinvented themselves again throughout this tournament with that shielding comp that largely they had moved away from. It felt like it was Twitch-centric at best. And now, speaking of shielding comps, double support ban coming from SKT. So the awkward thing, I think, Jat, is it feels like SKT are dictating the draft on blue and red side, which is that's a damn scary thing.
And that's what happens when you're throwing 1 to 2 top lane bans. Most likely, well, they actually dropped the Fiora ban, which makes things a little interesting right here. But that's what SKT has the flexibility of doing. No shield in this game, which creates a lot more opportunity for junglers and split pushers and bursters to have a large impact on the game.
Well, last ban is Lee Sin again by SK Telecom, so respecting the pick from Casa despite Peanut being the best performing Lee Sin in the tournament.
It's pretty clean first pick in this scenario. Does give over the Graves without the obvious Lee Sin matchup, so maybe Peanut back on Elise is a possibility in this game. We've seen his Olaf also this tournament, but that's definitely lower on the tier list. But speaking of tier lists, we do have the Fizz, and Syndra's available. Suddenly the flex pick nature of the Fizz is oh so important.
Yeah, decides against the Elise, actually just goes with Olaf despite not even having a haster on their team composition like a Karma or a Lulu. But the flexibility they get with the Fizz is very hard to discount. And they opted into the Olaf. They created this jungle pinch with the Lee Sin Graves, forcing Flash Wolves to pick Graves, which made it so SKT could get the Fizz.
And then they kind of get the mid pinch because what has been all season the blind pick mid laner choice, it's been Syndra, and we know Faker loves to opt into the matchup. So now MMD can't get his flex top lane Fizz. That was the big pick for them to open up their wards and barons against SKT in the second round robin. So already, I feel like SKT have jumped ahead and picked that.
Well, kind of, I think expected it for Flash Wolves, but Tahm Kench was that pick. That's kind of that next tier of supports once the strong range supports are usually banned away. And I imagine Ashe here for Betty unless there's a different plan. Okay, maybe swaps it up to something like Varus that's somewhat interchangeable, but you need to take AD here, give Betty something safe that he really knows his way around.
Yeah, Varus and Ashe are his two most played right here. Varus has maybe a slightly higher chance of surviving a rampaging Olaf running towards him, but it would be very minor.
Interesting to see if SKT take AD carry or support in this spot, because you imagine it's going to be a focused ban, whichever role's not taken. I could have seen something like a Nami in this scenario, but they're actually going to go for the Braum for the first time in a while. It hasn't been a big pick for them this tournament, or obviously in the meta recently, but with more melee supports, it feels like the latitude to play Braum is there for teams.
Yeah, pushes the phase of bans here, maybe towards, you would say, Ezreal as well as Ashe if you're trying to deny him, but that would be both of your bans from Flash Wolves' side, and they might want to try and throw out some top lane bans for Huni's power pick.
And they get mind games also on the side of SKT, because this, of course, does not give any more information on whether it will be a Fizz top. But when you do see a Rumble ban, you start wondering, okay, does that actually mean Fizz mid? Because Fizz traditionally does very well into the Rumble matchup, and mind games are real.
I love it here, but there's a cog ban for Flash Wolves, and you have to think the other champion, we hit on Ashe, but Twitch has been the big one for Bang here, so I think Flash Wolves have to have that in the forefront of their mind and likely take it away. SKT, we'll see if they keep playing games or target another lane.
It's just a kind of an interesting scenario, because usually when it's Twitch, it's either Karma and Lulu, those are the big picks there, and Tahm Kench early to open up the Twitch. This would just be Twitch because they're confident in playing Twitch. And when you have so much map pressure, so much map control, usually Twitch can be kind of that icing on the cake to really add extra implied pressure. But it's such a risky draft with basically no information.
Yeah, and Flash Wolves isn't, in my opinion, gaining much out of the bans that they're throwing here. Bang is a tremendous Ezreal. His Ashe Braum is still going to be very strong. They're throwing AD carry ban out with Kog'Maw, and they're blocking that, so they do make sure to get rid of Fiora. I think that's the highest value ban they've had. But then look, he still gets the Twitch if he wants it.
Just a few too many champions in the pockets, it feels like here in
As
SKT.
always.
I'm going to consider those for big. Yeah, there's a reason that these teams have such good drafts, because everyone can play just about everything.
Yeah, and SKT had kind of an issue, you would say, in the group stage, being overly generic and not as aggressive in champ select as you would want, but I feel like even though they're banning out Karma, Lulu, and Lee Sin, all champions they can play, they really forced Flash Wolves into what SKT wanted Flash Wolves to take, and it allows SKT to build their own style in this game.
And now you have MMD having to blind pick something against Huni, which again is kind of a scenario that sounds like something Flash Wolves couldn't opt into. They wanted to recreate their immaculate draft against SKT in the second round robin, but they don't have the latitude here. They're expecting Fizz Top as a very realistic choice. Right. Blind picks.
And they're probably going to go with Nautilus in the last choice, and it's going to be incredibly similar to their team composition last time. Switching it for the Shen makes it even more of a split-pushing composition. It blocks Huni from having it, but still an incredibly similar draft as far as it needing Maple to get the side lanes going.
I mean, power in the right places for Flash Wolves, but SKT mixing it up a lot after that shielding comp in game number 1. Last pick, though, looks like they might be considering mid lane. That would send Huni on the Fizz to the top lane. But if Faker's taking a champion, what does he take? He already played Orianna into LeBlanc. He loves to show us new picks. Lucian, not this time. It's going to be Cassiopeia.
Saw this matchup quite a lot right at the end of LCK as another option into the LeBlanc. I think every region kind of has a go-to pick. Even in Europe, you're seeing stuff like Swain, for example, against the LeBlanc. We saw quite a lot of Cassiopeia against LeBlanc. It's a pretty linear matchup. You can definitely be snowballed on, but Faker's Cassiopeia has a big reputation.
Yeah, and it has been a little while since we've seen a lot of Cassiopeia and shifted out of the meta, but still a tremendous late-game mage. The things that it's decent with against LeBlanc, you can throw the miasma down onto LeBlanc Distortion, prevent the moves, and also Cassiopeia can itemize magic resistance very early on in builds if you want to, which is pretty core against LeBlanc if you want to avoid getting bursted.
Yeah, the miasma interaction is the one that's definitely the take-home one. You can really restrict her movement, and thus, very squishy champion with how she builds can be targeted down. So Faker definitely going to be focusing on it. So the miasma is going to be the spell to look at from the Cassio in fights.
I mean, looking for Huni here as well. Off the top, I mean, I jokingly kind of talked about Huni and Peanut having a very passive game 1. All of a sudden, things have swapped up once again. Pretty aggressive jungler for Peanut. Ignite top laner for Huni. Like, if things were going to start getting heated like we saw them in the group stage for that top half of the map, we're going to be seeing no more zeros in those first 3 members of SKT, I don't think.
Yeah, it's a strong front line from both teams in this one. Still more split push priority on the side of Flash Wolves, and they're going to have to be incredibly cautious to not get caught in the mid lane when SKT can group up as 5 and just kind of power through, because that's what SKT is incredibly good at doing.
And the amusing thing is the second support here for SKT after the Braum is kind of the Cassiopeia, who can stand in the backline and use the threat of the ultimate Petrifying Gaze as a disengage tool to allow Twitch to open up. So it's definitely not a prototypical support mid, but you can play 2 lines of scrimmage, Olaf and Fizz diving in, and the Cassiopeia, Twitch, and Braum in the backline.
Well, we'll see what happens here, but Flash Wolves going to try and start things off on the same foot in game they did in game 1 here in the second. Expect them to get aggressive, but SKT, heat's starting to turn up here, and this is a team that mounts pressure like no other in the world, and you have to think the tide is starting to rise here. SKT will see if they can continue their run, or if Flash Wolves are going to tie it up and make it a series.
And what gameplay shifts will teams make from game 1 to game 2? Bang and Wolf had a very early fight with Betty and Sword Art in game 1, in which Bang ended up getting first blood. So Betty and Sword Art were clearly willing to try and exert some dominance on that lane early, and it didn't work out. Does that mean they go more passive, or does that mean they tweak what they were doing and try and get that kill once again?
And on the side of SKT, I'm really interested to see where Peanut puts his priority, and specifically when it comes to invades, because if he tries to play around, say, the blue side jungle of Flash Wolves, he's got a no-flash Fizz in the top lane who has to hard commit. He's Olaf with Ghost. He has to hard commit. Blasting Cones accepted. So there is actually an element of risk when you go for invades with champions like the Fizz and Olaf. So is he going to path around? Is he going to adjust his pathing accordingly? And maybe he won't even be able to play proactively. It really depends. And I'm very interested to track the early jungling pathing from both.
Well, certainly 2 players that get a lot of things done for their team. It's kind of the mark of a good jungler. Is Faker late wood onto the Raptors. Let's see what's going on. Maple, yeah, taking damage here. This he does a lot here at level 1, and there aren't that many level 1 champions that are super amazing, but Cassiopeia is one of them.
Nice minion waves we have over here. Shame you can't come near them, is what Faker says to Maple.
Yeah, Faker definitely knows the matchup. Getting an early amount of harass done onto Maple. Does have Corruption Potion, is willing to expend a lot of his mana early on, which is the cost of the Twin Fang, and you can see Maple having to burn through Corruption Potion just at level 1.
I mean, look, think of the value. He's already burned through the majority of his 500 gold item just to enter and get near the minion wave. He still hasn't been able to automate any minions. He has 0 minions at 2 minutes 20.
It's actually all zeros right now because he's about to run out of corrupting potion charges as well.
Yeah, and here's one of the minor tweaks. SKT banned LeBlanc every game of the group stage. They didn't have to. Faker knows how to play as and against LeBlanc. So really, 0 CS to 11 with the level 1 recall. That's what Faker... that's why you don't need to ban LeBlanc.
And that was kind of the ban that jumped off the page. I mean, I didn't even really take, as the series went, the weeks go on, or sorry, the games went on, really take into account that they were banning LeBlanc on blue and red. It hasn't been something they've done in LCK very frequently. So leaving it open has been so tantalizing to both teams. Maple's opted into it twice, and this time around, oh boy, he's had a world of pain.
Has to use the TP already. Adds a control ward to his inventory item, so all consumables right now. You can see about 200 gold up for Faker early on, and that's pretty insane for an early advantage. Faker now goes back, control ward, Dark Seal, going to keep that pressure going.
Yeah, watching Maple CS here is kind of a weird thing, but it's like very satisfying to see him just try and fight against the levels, the lack of itemization, the lack of AP he has in the early game. So pressure game from Faker that honestly we haven't seen too much this tournament. It's been a lot of passive Orianna for the majority of the tournament. Big change there with the approach on the Cassiopeia.
Well, didn't keep too tight track of the junglers, unfortunately, because of all the action in mid lane. But Carson and Peanut, both level 4, just farming up early as Faker. Added again onto Maple. Maple just getting run down every single time. Faker not going to make it a highlight just yet, but Maple's forced out again.
Yeah, Faker's angry about something right here because he's just gotten the Dark Seal. Maple was obviously unable to buy anything on the first wave, and he's also denying him CS at this phase.
And he's freezing the wave that, even though you could think, okay, well, he hasn't got teleport, push it in. No, no, no. Faker wants this scenario in mid to extend until he gets a kill or he forces the jungler to come and help push out, which of course Graves is uniquely good at, but Costa comes mid lane, that's so much extra latitude for Peanut, the other lanes to react. So Faker's trying to make this all about the mid lane in a way that games this tournament for SKT have not been.
Well, if we look out of the mid lane, you see MMD and Huni trading up here in the top side. Everyone else is even, so that's going well at least for both teams. Betty and Sodic getting some push going, but Bang going to be playing it safe. I mean, Casa, again, not that same level of proactivity. He's going to clear out this control ward, so might open something up here, but Maple's bad time continues. 36 and counting to 12 when I last looked. Faker is almost 30 CS ahead at 5 minutes.
Yeah, really showing how you can play that matchup early on as the Cassiopeia. Takes his first bad trade there, not getting his miasma down in the right spot, but still has a lot of the ability to resustain as the Cassio with the Corruption Potion. And
the wave is still not in a good spot for Maple, so he still has to play pretty defensive. He now has one control ward down on one side to back off. It's another nice chain.
Miasma in there, but a good little sneaky chain from Maple. Gets Faker down a little lower. Out of potion charges now. Maple does have an extra, but at this point I'm almost worried if Faker's going to look for some crazy level 6 all in, but finally the wave did reverse. He's going to have to relinquish that pressure. Huni's going to TP top. Faker's going to recall and buy up as well. And Dina taking some damage. Huni with that early sheen, so also playing aggressive in his 1v1.
When you're laning against Shen, you have the latitude to go pretty much whatever itemization you're feeling. In other more tough matchups, Spectre's Cowl into Trinity Force is often the way, but Sheen against the Shen is just fine. Some Shens will just take a Tiamat early just to battle, but gonna go the respectful route of going towards Spectre's Cowl, and feels like even with the first itemizations, you kind of know how this lane's gonna play out.
Yeah, and as soon as the teleport is down, Peanut's up there at the right time for a gank, but MMD played this one smart. The last thing that you want is to be pushed out of the lane after your teleport, because that's when you lose total control of the lane. Oh my goodness. The thing that Faker's doing is he's applying so much threat to Maple that he's never even getting off the second part of his chains.
Maple again, big mini wave, gonna try and make something happen here. Gets the chain down, Carter also joining Stand United, gonna move in there as well, but Faker, as he splashes away and finally relinquishes some aggression.
It took 3 people, and Maple will still have to recall just to get Faker's flash. That could subdue his aggression a little bit. Here comes Huni though, trying to get something.
Gets himself over the wall, so should be safe there. Huni only recently picked up his ulti, so I think the other reason why Peanut wasn't able to really force, and now the wave's pushed back, and MMD is going to have it in a better spot. But Maple, almost on life support already. Negatron Cloak early, will need every ounce of combat stat he can get. And Faker is going for that tier. His Casa been fished up there by Huni. Damage coming in. This looks like first blood. Ignite is there. Goodbye, Casa.
MMD lost control of that top lane. Faker also controlling the mid lane so much. Karsa was in vision for pretty much the last minute, so Huni knew exactly where to find him.
And when you're playing around mid lane, when you need to draw so many resources to get a micro win like the flash to relieve pressure, predictably, wards are going to go down in other areas that you can't keep tabs on everything. Huni just walked up. He didn't actually have vision. Put down a control ward, ducked around the wall, hit a max range vision. Ignite, goodbye Karsa.
Right as the blue is respawning, Huni just trying to get vision on it and finds a Graves. Very nicely done.
I feel like he didn't mean to auto-attack the controller, but his instincts just said, I have to do it. And as soon as Huni saw that, he's like, hey, you're dead. You cannot be staying there. Maple back in onto Faker. Karsa here as well, but Faker looking for a 1v2, perhaps damages that. Gets the stun onto Maple. Now Peanut gonna make sure to protect his mid laner, so no heroics needed just yet.
Faker drawing so much attention in this game and still applying his will. 40 CS up at 8 minutes now. Still his barrier as well throughout all of that chaos.
I love that Bang's here as well, just to see if maybe something can be done. Was on a recall as it built for the come.
Something can be done.
Oh no, he can! On into Maple Chain, he's good with that force to fly. Whoops in here as well. It's a party in the mid lane, and Bang gets a second kill.
Yeah, when Faker draws the reinforcements, when you've got the stealth from the Twitch, this can be the answer for SK Telecom. And on the desk, very rightly they called out that this tournament hasn't been about Faker, who's been fine, but we haven't seen the moments that were quintessentially Faker. This game, unfeeling price, the first 10 minutes of this game is the Faker show that we've been denied so far.
And he hasn't even necessarily done the things that we called out that the Cassiopeia does against the LeBlanc. It was all about level 1, just out-trading by spamming, knowing that LeBlanc needs to proc the passive and can only do that if you're skilling E and landing the skill shot. Then they're also using the Twitch, something that is banned so much against Bang, waits for the distortion to come out, opens up, and everyone from SKT piles in.
And bans is the big story. They may not have actually put too much time into LeBlanc and scrims because it was permabanned on both sides. It's up, it's Maple's LeBlanc. Maple is a famous historic LeBlanc player just like Faker. And for there to be just the outrageous CS advantage there is this game, lets you know that, there's a lot to be said about form being temporary and class being permanent, because Faker sure has been allowed the latitude to kind of be a secondary, tertiary carry. But also, you get games like this.
I mean, Faker's only AP generating item is a Dark Seal. He's got a Catalyst and a Tear, and he's 2 levels ahead of Maple with maybe a record-breaking CS advantage at this point.
Yeah, the all-time MSI record is 43 CS, and Faker just hit 45, so the largest CS at 10 anyone has ever had at MSI, Faker does in the semifinal.
Against Maple in a semifinal, like you say.
All right, now time for Ocean Drake, because Cassiopeia does a lot of damage to neutral objectives. No one is leaving their lanes for fear of dying, so an easy pickup there is MMD. Maybe going to get soloed here. Karsa in the ignite, and the dot damage is enough. Huni burns one down. Karsa too late.
Well, if the last game looked close for the first 25 minutes, this one looked close for the first 25 seconds, and then Faker started casting spells onto Maple in the mid lane. SKT now winning all across the map.
The scary thing is, if you're G2 or WE as well, I hold the thought.
Time in bottom lane, ulti there from Wolf with the glacial fission. Now Sorta gonna get stunned up with the grey health is there. Betty, a little too far away, and now SKT gonna chase. Splash from Tom Kench might have been enough as the cast lands in. Good Quinter's bite from Wolf. Does hit onto the Tom Kench, but SKT, no more kills just yet.
Yeah, and tremendous discipline to not overdive, knowing that Shen's ultimate would be up if they were to get caught under the turret. Instead, they'll just take the turret damage.
Fat wave here for SKT. Now the TP burnt by...
Only a Shen, remember.
MMD. Betty's staying here as well. Taunt's gonna miss. Wolf hops away to an ally.
He's giving up so much for teleporting in at that time, though. Fizz will be able to push in very easily into the top lane. Gonna see a replay of the solo kill. MMD walked up on half health. He didn't even hit the fish, but the ult was available here. It was a couple of damage rotations, but taunting aggressively and then flashing out is a bad look, you'd say, for MMD.
Yeah, that's a really bad look. He had Karsa on the way, so they were probably calling, taunt him in the turret, then we're going to be able to get Graves on, but just not understanding the damage that Huni was going to be able to throw back onto him.
Even the timing seems so early also in that scenario. As Maple's walking out to Faker, that hasn't worked out.
This is disgusting. Fish isn't quite going to hit Maple. Lucky to get away from that dive. Great setup for SKT, but execution very slightly off.
What I want viewers to take away is it's such a different draft from SKT because they banned both support champions. The Ivern was banned by Flash Wolves. It's a different type of game, and this is what we're seeing from SKT. They won with their Game 1 comp, even if it was a little bit wonky at the start, and now they're just running over the same opposition in a totally different draft.
Yeah, they were able to dictate to Flash Wolves, and it's not like SKT wasn't able to find success with the champions they would ban, because a lot of teams you would say, Peanut's the best Lee Sin here, why are you banning that? You're amazing at shield compositions with Bang, why are you banning Lulu and Karma? But SKT does that because of this, because they know they can win even harder when they switch the script and force Flash Wolves into a specific side.
Then you're G2 or WE and you're prepping and you see both these things and you're like, okay, I guess we have to prep for everything. The stats, the lay of the land in the group stage has been turned on its head largely so far in this series. And now you basically have to prep for anything, which is exactly the mind game SKT want to pull on.
And what else do you expect from the best team in the world? They had a whole week to prepare. That's a lot for a team with this much talent, this infrastructure this good, and players like Faker.
I mean, you want it to be a trap narrative, but it has so often been the case that whenever there is 3-4 days between match weeks, SKT will adapt to the tournament meta. We think back to MSI last year, where of course they lost 4 games in the regular season. As they're looking for a dive again on Maple. It's 2 levels between Maple and Faker.
I mean, this team adapts well in 5 games. They had 5 days and more to try and get something done. And now Peanut and Faker grouped up to try and take it. Tara Flash Wolves, we're going to trade, but the fish could stop it all. Betty eaten up by Sorta, but it actually gets a double knockoff as a result. First Tara finally down. Hooney just buying a bit of time. He gets taunted by MMD. Damage going to come out. There's the exhaust out. Going to get eaten by the big fish, perhaps. But Hooney leaping away and clears the way as a result. Still moving through. Nimble Fighter helping as he cuts through the minion wave. Hooney on a killing spree. Varus taking too many minions, and Hooney is going to try and execute. No, shut down barely. Timer not there.
How did Betty die at the end of that one? But that was Flash Wolves. Remember, Flash Wolves is no slouch of a team. They're trying to make their adaptation, avoid the mid lane, push top, and then you thought they were going to get a kill back on Hooney as he gets over-aggressive, but Hooney trades 1-for-1 and buys a ton of time.
He trades 1-for-1 in a 1v3 while objectives are going down in every lane. Comical stuff. If you're an SKT fan, if you're a Flash Wolves fan, you'll wonder how this game escalated so quickly. The fadeaway ignite taking down the damage. We need to get a replay to confirm it, but my goodness.
And this is the signature of SKT's play that I feel like they always have, especially with this lineup. They have the best cascading pressure of any team. Sure, their punish game's the best because they're the best team. That makes sense. But the way they manipulate the map to build leads as quickly as they do is why they're the best.
Finally see the replay here. Hooney got optimistic, you could say, at best. Walks up, uses his E, and remember, you're not maxing E first as an on-hit Fizz. So it's down at this point. But let's watch how he takes down mid.
And you can see he avoids getting eaten right there.
Ignite.
And he had ignited him, but Betty then takes 2 turret shots. He was hoping to finish the turret. Everyone else had left tanking. That's a big oopsie. Hooney will take it, though. Tries to playful trickster right at the end, but he was done for.
Well, the first time he wasn't on the camera, but he was caught by the secondary cameras. Thank you very much, cameraman. You did not spare Betty's shame at all.
Well, hard to look this good when you're this far behind. You can see Hooney's stats have been outstanding at this tournament, and it's just it's been great to see the evolution of a player that was already loved, already very good, just evolve even further on a team that just does this to players.
And it's so important for Hooney to win. He really wants to win a world championship and even the MSI championship because he won in Europe, he came to North America, and he honestly struggled in playoffs. People were calling him an incomplete player. There was a ton of skepticism when he joined SKT, but he's really found his place on this SKT team where he can still be that incredible tank player that a lot of times SKT needs, but he's adding his own flavor to this team and the way he plays top lane.
And as a player, he's kind of answering critics every time he takes the rip. But from the start, the question was, does he play tanks? Because there wasn't really a track record over it. Basically spammed Poppy and Maokai. We got the confirmation that, okay, the player with the insane mechanics can play tanks. What a surprise. From there, he showed he was largely level-headed. Early in the season, Peanut and Hooney definitely got too frisky for turret dives. They needed to adapt their aggression. But he's evolved as a player. He's back on the carries as well when he needs to, just like in this game on the Fizz. And he is becoming that complete player. And when you're a complete player on SKT, you're a winner.
Well, it looks like someone snuck in. It is Caster into the top side. Taunt's going to land it up to Huni, but I'm not sure they've got enough damage. Fish does go wide there, so now he's going to have to Ocean Strike back to that minion. Flash forward from Caster. Ulti, he's going to miss despite the cancel. Playable Trickster away, one in the front. Stan United just to be sure. Caster gets the kill.
Getting Stan United there is an accomplishment in itself, but also gets
he can't go bot lane
aggressive.
now. He can't go bot lane because he doesn't have the Stand United, so Shen's out of position.
Yeah, you better flash Maple. Faker spots the LeBlanc, and Maple respectfully moves away. 3 turrets now for SKT as they take the tier 2 in the bottom. A trade for Flashballs as they take their first turret of the game. But 5,000 gold and counting at 17.5 minutes. CS leads in almost every lane. SKT putting on a show as always.
Yeah, and pretty good scaling too when you consider the Cassiopeia and the Twitch. Definitely things that Flash Wolves need to be able to absorb, because if they lose this game, they go down 2-0, and we usually see how that ends when they play SKT, so they need to do everything they can to regroup in this. You can see Huni, I like the plays them trying to go up there and punish Huni. They just haven't been there on the execution, and they need to withstand the rest of SKT pushing through, because once again, there's not great initiation on SKT.
And withstanding and absorbing pressure has been basically G2's big win condition so far this time. A lot of teams have been able to respect inaction or large inaction and just get through kind of mid-games where they're behind 5,000 to 7,000 gold and bring it to the late game. But when SKT get ahead, they push forward those wards, and when there's a Twitch on the map, the safe objectives, the safe minion waves, you get much more conservative because you have to respect so many things at once, especially when Stan United is down, that it's so hard to lose the minimum against SKT, and especially SKT with Twitch.
Well, might as well take Rift Herald because there's not a whole lot else to do on the map right now. I imagine it's going over to Huni. He's going to pick up the buff after SKT taken, and now power transferred to that left side. Going to try and take that MMD to start it off. There's a turret there as well out of the deal, but Bang wants to kill instead. Winter's Bite lands, but MMD back to the safety of his turret, although it's very temporary safety.
Yeah, the Rift Herald on Twitch is actually very good. The extra burst damage it can add in the 1v1s is often enough to kill.
Drawing in more members here are the Flash Wolves, try and keep this turret up as long as possible. They are playing the map, given they have the LeBlanc with teleport in the bot lane, but Huni's on a hunting mission, and looks like he's going damage second item, which is certainly not something we see a lot in Korea, but when you're this far ahead and when you want to just kill Shen repeatedly in the 1v1, why not pile on a Blade of the Ruin King?
You are afforded some luxuries, and it looks like Blade of the Ruin King may be that very item Huni will be allowed to pick up here. Flash Wolves again, still defending SKT. Staying group, not trying to let anyone slip up here and gift gold over to the Flash Wolves. But again, they've just got all this pressure. Huni able to keep moving through. Faker is just standing strong in the mid lane, forcing Maple or whoever else back, because Faker himself is also so good in a 1v1. And Bang just chilling out. He's got the map open, a world at his feet, and maybe a 3v2 to start things off. Betty trying to stay near the Tom Kent, thought out gobbles him up. And again, safe for now, but that turret's looking real unhealthy.
Yeah, and they are getting out pressured in both soul lanes as well, which makes that hold even more difficult. It's a 2,000 gold lead for Faker in the mid lane. It's an 1,800 gold lead, plus the Rift Herald buff for Huni. So SKT actually pretty happy to keep this map spread out. When you see the Vamp Scepter on Huni, you know there's no way he's going for a team fight Fizz right here. He's really just trying to dominate that 1v1 versus Shen.
Well, looks like they're going to chase Maple, who's on the wrong side of the map. Dashes over to the wall, might be looking for an execute at this point. Needs to make it all the way to the fountain laser without getting tagged. Maple.
One spell.
Peanuts is lining up the last one. He's trying to trigger. Oh, he finally got hit. Maple gives it up. He's like, all right, I'll fight you. Peanuts like, yep, I'll grab that one.
I actually see some pings over onto the Baron as well. They're coming from Flash Wolves, but respecting the fact that Cassiopeia and Twitch do Baron very quickly.
Add a Mountain Drake on top of that. Baron probably has about 7 seconds, even especially when you get up around 30 minutes. A little bit longer right now, but that's the type of time frame you're dealing with the late game Cassiopeia.
And the part where you know this game is completely gone, it's not the replays, but it's that at 21 minutes with triple globals, remember it's Shen and 2 teleports, so Stan United and 2 global teleports, SKT is dictating every lane assignment. Everything Flash Wars is reacting to. They tried once to put Maple on the bot lane to try and force something. He's still got wave clear. The Fizz shows up and he's forced out. Now they have those Globers and they try and make something happen.
This is an insanely hard force from Flash Wars. Wolf's going to get chained up there. Maple going to follow on through. Virtual Vision hops out. Might be enough to disengage it, but the damage still flowing in as SKT commit.
They want to turn it around.
Faker also here. Hooney needs to land a big fish to start it off. He's going to miss it. No fight started by either.
It's still odd numbers for SKT, but they have that giant gold lead, so they're trying to cut Flash Wolves off.
I mean, they're outnumbered, but it doesn't really feel like it. Hooney going to cut them off. Ignites on the Betty against the Grass Prop. Label tricks is that. Ulti lands onto Faker, but Faker just going to stand and deliver. Peanut also there to try and get some front line down. The damage is immense, but it's not nearly enough. Flash Wolves just too far behind.
Getting cut off by a true 4v5 with Ola slowly ambling towards the fight. Lets you know where the game is going. Flash Wolves do get out. They are forced to use some resources like the Stand United, like the teleport from LeBlanc, so the map plays will be even more one-sided for SKT for the next 3 to 5 minutes. But SKT do not grow their gold lead in that scenario.
We've just breezed by the first two Drakes as well, but the second mountain that's now spawning for SKT, it just feels like even in an even scenario with the Globals, Flash Wolves were going to have a ton of trouble trying to contest, but again, they'll move back down. They've got plenty of damage to get it done. Faker's even counter-jungling on the Cassiopeia. And that pressure just keeps mounting. SKT are this rising tide. In game one, you felt that pressure mount up and they were able to win. This game is significantly more one-sided, and Flash was starting to run out of room.
Has a player ever decided a game more at 0-0-0 scoreline than Faker this game? He has no kill involvement, but literally the whole game has been run off his mid lane pressure from level 1. And it feels like every other kill is just a needless stat line compared to Faker's impact.
He has completely taken LeBlanc out of the game. Maple has had no impact and been a negative amount of pressure in the mid lane. Double Mountain also, I would argue, is one of the better Drake combinations for Cassiopeia, since one of the threats of Cassiopeia is the incredible amount of sustained damage that she can deal to Baron with Twin Fang as well as poisoning. It's just going to be even faster now with Double Mountain, which will force Flash Wolves into these really dangerous face checks around the Baron area.
And I mean, Flash Wolves might not even have time because Hooney's just finished his Blade of the Ruin King running straight down to that bottom lane to contest the Shen. I mean, they could probably put 2.5 people on the Baron and it will die pretty quickly. Hooney's going to create the sideline pressure. SKT will do their due diligence as always. Get the lanes pushing, get the vision down. No team takes over a map better than SKT, and this Baron is all but an eventuality.
Yeah, Faker and Wolf could two-man Baron at this point in the game. It actually would be able to be possible, especially with the Ocean Drake on top of that one, but they're just making sure they're getting their waves in the right spot. They're doing this Baron properly.
No reason not to. And now they're in the area of Flash Wolves. They see those wards get hit down by Wolf. They see them moving into the jungle. You know what they're trying to do, but the question is, can you even stop it at this point?
I mean, this is no good decisions. Hooney's down bot lane with a stack of AD and a Trinity Force, happy to split push. They have to react to that. They have to stop the Baron going down. MMD's not going to get free time to ult in without there being significant damage to the bot lane turret. And even though Hooney doesn't have his teleport, that coming up will just be the last piece of the puzzle for Flash Wolves to watch the Baron be started and basically say, well, we're going to try something.
Faker stealing blue as well means that he's not going to run out of mana trying to do the Baron, which is maybe a concern. And you may have talked about it. Wolf and Faker are on the objective. Nice blue trigger from Flash Wolves just to spot it out. But that may be a real thing. Faker's going to start it. Wolf's going to join him. Just testing, seeing where Flash Wolves are. Kaza, miasma'd up. Winter's Blast going to miss. Faker's just going to chase forward, force the gobble from Sword Art. Faker not done. But Seraph's going to get chained up by Maple, but Maple does pitiful damage at this point.
And that's Faker understanding vision as well as his own strength. He knows he's not going to get turned around on because 4 members of his team were missing, but it was just him and Wolf that were walking into the entire Flash Wolves team. They pushed him back. Look at this Baron drop.
Wolf's just going to zone them out of the way. The rest of the team finished it already dead before Flash Wolves get anywhere close. And now SKT going to leap into action. Kaza, ulti's away. Faker Flash, ulti's just for the souls. Betty gets a nice chain out, but Peter prompts the Ragnarok, goes straight into Betty as Wolf exhausts the Varus, and Maple just trying to keep them down. MMD will be the sacrifice. Faker grabs his first kill of this game.
And this is why SKT has low kill participation percentages. Watch Hooney. He's winning the game down in the bottom lane, taking that inhibitor. Faker gets his first kill of 6 while being the sole carry. They play the map.
But I'm still disappointed, guys. I really wanted to see Faker end this game 0-0-0 and pick up an MVP. make me smile as an analyst, but picks up the scoreline. Scoreline ruined now. Sorry, Faker.
Well, Sorta, good pluck again. Manages to prevent his teammate from dying to Huni, who is running a rampage here. 1v3 on this inhibitor. Might just try and take it and win them, but Betty's going to be the first target. Ignite is done. Betty burns the flash. Huni does not care. Gets a 1v3 kill. Might get out or get another kill, but SKT, the rest of them now, a call to arms to reinforce. Casted it to Warpity. Gets him with a Q. Sorta just mouths under all the damage, and Faker leaps towards the fountain to barely miss getting Maple.
We have seen some crazy games this tournament. We have seen Peanut pick up 14 kills in 11 minutes, and still this game surprises me the most. Faker's performance, outstanding. They're looking to dive the fountain, you know, whatever, and end the game.
I mean, the first game ended pretty quickly. This one's going to be even faster. SKT going to take down yet another Nexus and push Flashless to the limit.
2 Barons in 2 games, and they end the game while they have the Baron. They're turning the corner on these victories so fast and decisively.
They turned the corner on game 1 with a smart team fight, Caitlyn living and putting out the damage. They turned this game on a level 1 trade in the mid lane, I think, to a great degree, and it snowballed further. They had to send so many resources, the Flashless, to even hope to stabilize the mid lane matchup. Predictably, the other lanes fell apart because they were funneling everything into mid lane. SKT turned on the style, and there was only ever one winner in this game.
Yeah, and we heard Bang at the start of the day talk about wanting to get rid of the perception that Flash Wolves can beat the Korean teams, because they were actually coming into this series 8-2 all-time against Korean teams and 4-2 all-time against SKT. Well, now SKT is 1 game away from a swift and decisive 3-0 in the semifinals.
And it is an oversimplification to say one mistake really decided that game.
Sure.
But
Not this one.
I mean,
Yeah.
mid lane was a cascade, but like you could kind of pinpoint and be like, this one thing cost them that game. This one can cost them the last game.
There were a lot of one things.
Yeah, and unfortunately, SKT turned one thing into a whole heap of gold and another game victory. To give us their thoughts on that game, let's send it back off to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I mean, it's starting to feel like we're in for a very fast day here with 2 games now over to SKT. This one even quicker than the one before that. And they already mentioned Faker's dominance in the mid lane. We're going to get to that in just a second. But I do want to talk about Champion Select again, because to your point, Deficio, once again, we see the Graves go for Karsa. So not a ton of playmaking, because that Lee Sin has been removed by SKT both times.
Yep.
And then a quick first rotation on the Fizz for Huni puts him in a winning matchup too. And so I want to return to the thing you said at the very beginning of the day, that you believe the best way to attack SKT is to get 2 winning lanes with the jungler that can make things happen early. So far, Flash Wolves has ignored that advice.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's hard in the draft to obviously outdraft SKT and just, like, you know, get counter matchups. But that's why you need that early game jungler who can then snowball a lane. So that sets you up for having a winning lane later. Picking Shen into Fizz and just surrendering topside, that's never going to become a winning lane, even if you try and really gank Huni, because he has to be really pulled in to actually die multiple times. Mid lane, same thing. Obviously, we counter pick over to Faker. The reason we didn't see Syndra was because the Fizz obviously blocks it. They couldn't just swap that to mid for Faker specifically. And then Time Kench bot, it's like, you have no lane you can really snowball.
And I think one of the toughest things about drafting against SKT, and one of the reasons that your draft rarely seems to look good, is that SKT is the best at almost every style. It's like they come out in game 1 and they're playing, oh God, Peanut picks Ivern, and you know he's not a good Ivern player. Oh, this could be bad for SKT. It's like, well, they still smashed in that game as well. So I mean, the thing is, there's not a lot that is a bad pick for SKT. They're so versatile and they can play so many different styles to such a high degree.
Yeah, they're excelling. Like, every single player here is just individually making outplays, whereas on the side of Flash Rules, yeah, you can go down on the bat rate, but there's so many individual misplays. Like, Flash is used at the wrong time. We see Betty die to 4 turret shots in the top lane. Yes, the game's already over, but like, what's going on here in terms of your individual performance? That alone is outweighing the power that the picks bring to the table.
Yeah, and again, we can't really blame Flash Wolves for taking a lot of the good meta picks here. You know, Time Kench is a good counter against the Fizz specifically for later on, but the Graves first pick, while I understand for Karsa, he feels powerful on it. Again, as you said, it's just not the champion you need if you want to try and get these winning lanes. Because you're going to be strong yourself, what does it matter if your other 3 lanes are losing?
Well, especially when we consider the way that the lanes went in this game specifically. And now I want to dive into it. Our first replay here, Acer-worthy performance by the man that we said was the weakest performing member coming in, but bracket stage.
All hail the
Faker.
king.
Oh my goodness, this guy was going off.
Yeah, he's the GOAT for a reason, and honestly, watching these level 1 E-trades and putting so much pressure, it's something he does in the LCK too sometimes.
He forces the 0 CS back.
Yeah, 0 CS back to teleport then. But then right after, what he does too is just masterfully managing the waves to the point where at one point he will poke the enemy LeBlanc out of a trade again and puts him on a freeze.
Yeah, and I think that the freeze that he held for so long, that's how he developed this massive CS advantage. You know, just before 9 minutes, he was almost at 50 CS, and Faker smashed Maple so ridiculously hard that you don't want to just say, oh, it's only on one thing, but let's be honest, like, the bot lane is never going to be the way that SKT loses this game, really. Betty, I just can't see him outperforming Bang enough that they're going to win through that. Has to be Maple, has to be Karsa. When your mid laner gets smashed this bad, you can't win. Yeah, and this is also like, why is this Twitch and Braum allowed to move into the mid lane without any communication? Or what's going on with the flash rolls? They're breaking down. This is also a Twitch that we talked about off air. Is like this guy, he's starting Endurance into the very afraid, you know, triple potion longsword start. They're getting away with a lot of these things. Like, they're not getting threatened in some matchups, and that's a problem when you play against SKT. You have in your head, okay, this is a 70-30 matchup. We can pressure, get about 8 CS advantage, probably be the first one to rotate.
Right.
Then you're playing against Bang and Wolf, you're like, you know, let's dial that down.
They're almost losing their turret to a hyper-scaling AD carry who started Doran's Blade.
I mean, at that point, it was all lost anyway.
Like,
it was so lost after just the living phase.
Right, you got a roughly 50 CS lead coming from the mid lane at 10 minutes. This is ignoring what's going on in the top lane. Of course, Fizz picking up an early kill onto Karsa, finding him in the jungle, and then we just saw kind of the abuse coming through onto MMD in the counter matchup.
Yeah, this too is just, he goes for these type of plays. Huni, you know, this is the old aggressive one. Also Karsa, he's not respecting Fizz level 6-7 here, level 5 in the jungle. You just need to yield, make sure that you see him to go back to lane, take the tempo loss, but at least make sure that you stay somewhat relevant in the game. And now Huni is just, I think he's trolling here, personally.
I mean, yeah, this is when you're already so far ahead and you have Huni as a player. He's going for these kind of plays.
Yeah, but who's trolling harder, Huni or Betty? Because this one...
Definitely Betty towards the end. Look at him. Gives a 1 hit, 2 hits, 3 hits. He's like, hey, wait, no minions? Oh.
I thought it was about objective-based gameplay, you know, instead of chasing kills. So I'm with Betty on this one. You know?
And again, just that, you know, you see again the room for error that you have when playing against SKT. We talk about, okay, yeah, sure, you don't have to play a 100% perfect game, but every little mistake will mount against SKT, and they will take those small advantages and push them forward. But now I want to transition the conversation to Game 3 here, because backs are against the wall. You got to win to even start, you know, kind of that momentum towards the reverse sweep here for Flash Wolf. So where does the solution lie? I mean, I think back on red side this time, right? So let's look at it in that regard if we're going to talk about Champion Select.
I mean, I think there is no clear solution, but when you look at Game 1, you know, Flash Wolves let Fizz fall all the way through the first round. I was surprised that they didn't use it when it was so big for them, you know, for their victory over SKT in the past, and being able to flex that. I think that is very powerful, but especially for me, it's like, you know, you have to get early kills probably to win this game. You can't afford to have Karsa on the Graves, on a farming jungler, because even though he's excellent at it, your only chance is really snowballing, right? So you need him on something like Elise. If they're going to ban out the Elise, then I think you have to take a ganking jungler, you have to take risks, and you have to hope to really get your lanes ahead.
Deficio, how do you feel about Elise, Fizz then as the first rotation? Granted, neither of them would be banned out for that to happen.
I mean, it's definitely an option. I think also going back to the first game, like, you can actually give over the Ivern and just say, you know what, SKT, we know we're going to lose late game anyway, so like, take that jungler, it's yours. We're going to play full early game, as Azale is highlighting. I think that is definitely a viable strategy. If they want the Graves so badly, they need some lanes with CC that can set up like his ganks early, and then maybe try and play it that way. LeBlanc is not the answer. Faker has a million counter picks, so you need something like a Syndra maybe if it's open. Problem is SKT can just ban away those key picks they're afraid of, making it almost impossible for Flash Wolves to kind of outdraft SKT.
And Crepo, knowing the odds are stacked here, what do you got for me? Final thoughts.
I just think it's also, the way to beat SKT is variance. And you need to have some members that are outperforming. I don't think this series it is happening. Maybe Karsa is still being their best player, so I definitely agree right there. Put him on a champion, try and enable him, but then still, on the day, I don't think the Flash Wolves right now are showing up enough to even combat individual skill, let alone the teamwork that SKT is bringing to the table.
All right, so it's a multi-step process. We as individuals got to level up, and then as a team, we got to take down SKT. Their backs are against the wall here. We'll see if the Flash Wolves can keep the series alive when they face off against SKT in Game 3. The 2017 MSI continues after this.
Faker has gone for that tier. His Casa been fished up there by Huni. Damage coming in. This looks like first blood ignite. Is there? Goodbye, Casa.
Something can be done.
Oh, no, again. On the ultimate Maple Chain is good with that force to blood. Whoops in here as well. It's a party in the mid lane and bang. Gets a second kill. Damage going to come out. There's the exhaust out. Going to get eaten by the big fish behind the Hardy. Leaping away and clears the wave as a result. Still moving through. Nimble Fighter helping as he cuts through the minion wave. Huni on a killing spree. Varus taking too many minions and Huni.
Faker's performance, outstanding. They're looking to dive the fountain, you know, whatever, and end the game.
I mean, the first game ended pretty quickly. This one's going to be even faster. SKT going to take down yet another Nexus and push Flash Wolves to the limit.